I'm Dr. Shari Robertson, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Building Better Readers. So, today I'm going to indulge my sticky note obsession. I love using sticky notes for a variety of reasons. They're fun, they're colorful, they're extremely versatile. Kids love them, they're motivating, but most importantly, they are very cheap and easy to get. Now, if there's anything I like better than sticky notes, it's wordless books. And I probably have more wordless books proportionally in my library than any other genre. And that's because they are so incredibly versatile, and they're a powerful tool for developing language and literacy skills. And at the end of today's little mini session, I'll direct you to a website where you can download a list of my favorite wordless books to save you the time from having to hunt them down yourself. Because we're all about saving you time and conserving your energy for the really important work of helping children become better talkers, listeners, readers, and writers. But for today's activity, we're going to pair these two of my favorite things together: sticky notes and wordless books. What a wonderful combination! Kind of like chocolate and peanut butter. But the best part is, we can also target a whole slew of really important skills harnessing the power of this dynamic duo without adding any unwanted inches to your hips. So let's do it. Now, I'm going to demonstrate this activity with a specific book, but you are free to use any wordless book you like. It's important, however, when you're selecting a book, that you consider and make sure that you choose one that has a strong storyline and opportunities to connect rich vocabulary to the content. So be thoughtful when you make that selection. Now, I'm going to use one of my favorite wordless books to demonstrate this lesson because it ticks all the boxes for me in terms of what I look for in a wordless book. And as a bonus, I've done the prep work for you related to this book, and I'll share that link with you at the end of this little session where you can download that if you choose that you want to use this particular book. I've got all the prep work done for you, and I'm happy to make that available to you. And the book that we're going to use today is called Firefly Fox. I mean, just the title itself is awesome. In fact, I dare you to stop this video and try to say the name of that title 5 times really fast without tripping over your tongue. But beyond being a tongue twister, the title is also a metaphor. I mean, how can a fox be a firefly? Well, the only way to find out is to open this book. Now, before I demonstrate this activity, I want to do a brief overview of the story. Not all of the pages, but enough to give you a flavor for the story so that it makes sense to you. So as you can see here, the story begins with the fox taking her nightly stroll along a fence, and she spies something out of place. She goes over to investigate and ends up in a bucket of paint. But this doesn't appear to be ordinary fence paint, because when she emerges, our little fox is glowing. She then proceeds to annoy all of her wildlife friends because they can't seem to get any sleep with a fluorescent fox hanging around. Our little fox becomes quite dejected until a firefly shows her that a fox who glows in the dark can actually be the life of the party. Now, as I mentioned previously, this activity does require a little prep work on your part. Of course, again, you can use this book, and I've done this for you, but you don't have to do it that way. Once you've reviewed your book, your job is to create a set of vocabulary words related to the story. Now, try to include words from a variety of semantic categories as appropriate for the student or the client with whom you are working. So for younger students, you want to stick to basic categories such as nouns and verbs, and perhaps add in some adjectives, some descriptive words. For older students, don't be afraid to add conjunctions, adverbs, double meaning words, compound, complex words, those, for instance, that have affixes, and maybe even some figurative language, such as happy as a clam or down in the mouth. So once you've created that list, now you're going to have the client or the student write each word on a sticky note. So one sticky note, one word. And now this is where the fun begins. It's now the student's job. They've got their pile of sticky notes. It's their job to put at least one sticky note on each page of the book based on what they think is going on with the story. So here are some pages from Firefly Fox with the sticky notes applied. Notice that some of the pages have more than one, and that's perfectly fine. That's terrific if they can use more than one on a page. So pages can have more than one, as you see on here, but every page must have at least one sticky note. So you can't skip any pages. Every one must have at least one sticky note, but they can have more than one. Now, here's a good time to mention that this activity works great in groups because students can work together to talk about the story and kind of negotiate where the words go. And this activates the cognitive system. We're going to talk about that in a minute, to a higher level as they actually are doing this with a group and they're talking about the story together. You can even do this actually as a classroom activity with small groups and then compare the finished product. So put kids into groups of 2 or 3, let them negotiate it, and then see what they come up with. Another side note is that I also provide students with blank sticky notes in case they have a really good word or two that they want to add to the story. When you see that happening, you know that you're doing something right, as students seek to take the reins and add their own ideas. And that, of course, is what we really want to happen. We are providing the scaffolding here for them to begin to be storytellers and learn how language and words go together to create narratives. But if they've got ideas of their own, you know now that you've done your job, and that is a real woohoo moment. So celebrate that and hand out the sticky notes. Now, once all the pages have sticky notes applied, the student or the spokesperson for the group, if they're doing it in group, now tells the story, being sure to include the word or the words that are on the page into the narrative. Now, this takes a bit of a cognitive resource as the storyteller has to construct meaningful sentences within a story grammar. So they have to be able to, they're managing both using that word in an appropriate sentence and hopefully working, using correct sentence structure and grammar and that it makes sense. But they've also got to keep the story going. So it's kind of structure in a structure. They're working on putting the word in a sentence, but the sentence has to work within the story grammar. So there's a lot going on here. Sticking these words to the page prior to the task activates the cognitive system. So the students then can engage in this authentic task as they become authors of their own versions of the story. Now, you can extend this activity in a variety of ways. And of course, the most obvious is to have the student or the students write their story after they've told it orally. So now they're not just oral storytellers, they are working on their writing skills too. And the beauty of sticky notes is because they stick and unstick. So it's easy to engage in the editing process. They can move sticky notes around, they can change their mind, they can say, oh, this word works better on this page. That is the essence of the editing process, because none of us write and then are done. And we want to encourage students and model for them and show them that you might start with one version, but you're going to very probably end up with another one as you figure out better words or a better way to tell your story. So we're now working on all of these kinds of language and literacy constructs, all within a very authentic task, framed around just using our sticky notes and wordless books. One more note is it is pretty easy to adapt this activity to an online format. In that situation, you probably would prepare your own little notes that students could then manipulate and put on the pages. And then as you go back through the book, they can retell the story. So this is very adaptable to an online format as well. And there you have it. One pack of sticky notes, one wordless book, equals about a gazillion ways that you can address language and literacy development, IEP goals, state standards, and for me, even more importantly, really help a student engage with a book in a real context, using language and vocabulary in a real context, giving them an opportunity to flex their creative muscles and feel like they have accomplished something. So if you're inspired by this activity, but you need just a little bit more inspiration, I have a list of my favorite wordless books available on our website at dynamic-resources.net. You just click under the free resources tab. Under that same tab, you will find a list of words that we generated for Firefly Fox, and also a list for another wordless book called Spotless Spot, which is a little bit lower level book for if you want to do this with words that aren't quite as difficult as those that we selected for Firefly Fox. And finally, if you are really inspired by this book, you can use the discount code ASHA 2020 on our website at checkout, and with that you'll get 20% off any of our wordless books. So visit us at dynamic-resources.net, and you can download the free resources, or you can take advantage of our sale on our wordless books. Thanks for visiting. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Building Better Readers. Come back tomorrow and I'll have some more ideas for you.